Namo Om Vishnu Padaya. No, leave that. Oh, okay. Leave it open. 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 Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskachada Satarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a follow-up on Vyas Puja. What does ISKCON mean? What does it mean to be a follower of Sheila Prabhupada? What does it mean, and why does it matter? Is it our team against their team? Is it based on sentiment? Sentiment is easily swayed, but knowledge, actual insight and understanding, you can't change that. Once you understand, it gives foundation and substance to one's spiritual life. And why should I serve ISKCON? And so many different things. So those are the subsidiary or byproducts of understanding the significance of Sheila Prabhupada. So we have a little, see how we do here. So, of course, we know Nirvasesha Sunyavadi and some other Sanskrit scrambled, but the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was deeply appreciative of Prabhupada's couplet when Prabhupada offered his Vyas Puja, and I don't know what the year was, but impersonal calamity thou hast moved. What is absolute is sentient thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast moved. That Krishna is a person, that he has transcendental senses, that he reciprocates. Anyway, the slides will show. But that the Prabhupada came not only to the West, I mean, he came to the West, but then he went back to India. Because it's in everybody's head. It's rattling around in everybody's head is ultimately everything is one, everything is impersonal, everything is the white light, everything is formless, there's no distinction, there's no service, there's no seva, there's no relationship. Everyone's got that in their head. India, Western. When you ask them what is the ultimate conclusion and destination, they are all impersonal. So, I always liked this. Someone sent me this little cartoon. One of the greatest tortures is solitary confinement and sensory deprivation. If you to stick someone in a room, and first off you wipe out time. You just keep bright lights on, or you keep them completely in the dark. They lose sense of time. They lose sense perception. So on one hand, it's completely the antithesis of our nature. But even beyond that, what is a happiness? Sitting all by yourself, twiddling your thumbs, or what's happiness is reciprocation, is relationship, is experience. And we spend our eternity all alone, or not even in some kind of solitary confinement, or it's actually hellish. So it wears on the living entity after, you can't just, we want some juice, some ras. I don't want to take too much time. I'm assuming that you know most of this. So, and okay, negative numbers, origin, 0, and positive numbers. So their idea, join us. Their idea is, and everyone's idea, just to come to 0, Buddhists to end the suffering. But what about the whole positive spectrum? What if there is a spiritual dimension? What if there's spiritual perception? I remember the before I was first finding out about Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada has that Brahmasamhita translation on that record, the Govinda album. I think it's the Govinda album. And it says, the devotees have no, because you can't stop desire. Like you don't think about the color red, that bang, 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 red's all that you have in your head, you know? So the idea of becoming void and empty of thought is just impossible. Krishna says the same thing in Gita. I don't want to take up too much time. But it says, Prabhupada says, it's actually from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the living entity has no, in liberation, the devotee has no desire to fulfill. I'm paraphrasing, but has no desire to fulfill. Still he has variegated transcendental desires to satisfy his Lord in loving service. And for me, that was a turning point, because desire is getting us into trouble. Karma, I act in this way, I get a reaction, I'm hankering, I'm lamenting. So desire is so let us become desireless. And yet the desire to become desireless is a self-centered desire. Tell that to the Zen Buddhists and So what to do? So here it is, simultaneously one and different. That we have no desire, no material desire, so the devotee is desireless, akama. And yet we have so many desires to satisfy Krishna. It's a whole other thing. Whole conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So what is that positive, Arjuna, don't fight for yourself, but fight for me. For spiritual purposes to satisfy Krishna, definitely. That's the whole conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So they all come to zero, but they have no concept of the only, and Prabhupada gave this message to the world, which brings life. I'm working on a different system here. And give up individual identity and merge into the Brahman effulgent. Like I said, it's worse than hell, actually. And what is the goal of meditation? How can you become desireless? It's ridiculous. It's spiritual suicide, Prabhupada called it. If you have a child, Prabhupada's example, I'm a father, I come with my young child to the doctor, he has a very high fever. I say, doctor, please cure this fever. Doctor pulls out a gun, bang, shoots the kid. Pay me. What? Hey, you wanted the fever gone, fever's gone. Pay me. What? So spiritual suicide. What about, you want to bring the fever down to normal. And what is our Nitya Swarup Krishna Das? Sure, we're Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. But what is the nature of that Brahman, that eternal reality? Nitya Swarup Krishna Das. I'm eternal servant of Krishna. So there it is. There is an absolute reality. There is a permanent paravyoma. There's a spiritual dimension, eternal, where Krishna's there with his devotees. There is a kingdom of God. So we've fallen in a dark well. How will you get this dark well of the material world? If you fall into a dark well, how will you get out? Help me, help me, help me. Somebody has to come to you. Someone has to lower a rope. There's no way you can't, jump out. You can't climb out. Can't think your way out. And that recognition that I was standing next, Vaisheshika Prabhu says, there's a devotee named Satya, I forget his full name, I'm embarrassed. Satyadev in Japan, Prabhupada disciple, has been there for years, very nice devotee. Somebody asked him one time, what does Hare Krishna mean? Now we know Hare from Hara, and this, there's so many different answers, very good answers. And ultimately, please absorb me in your service, we know that. But Satya gave a little bit of a different answer. What does Hare Krishna mean? I need help. And that recognition that I'm a tiny jiva and I'm dependent on Krishna. So we're in a well. And that recognition is the beginning of self-realization, not this huge pride and ego that I'm going to figure it all out myself. Good luck with that. So Prabhupada says the example, there's fool number 1 and fool number 2. Fool number 1 gives bad advice, and fool number 2 enthusiastically follows it. So I love this. Learn to fly here. Well, something happened in the communication there, right? Something was lost in translation. So if you follow a fool, then what is a blind man? Blind leading the blind, both fall into the ditch. Yeah, sorry about the delays here. It's a new system for me. We won't take the time. We believe so many. You know the Sargal Singh story? You know the Sargal Singh? Yeah, the Sargal Singh dies, the man shaves his head, and everyone begins shaving their head. Finally, they're naming Sargal Singh Park, Sargal Singh, festival. Finally, the king asks, hey, some wise man says the king's just about to shave his head. Who's Sargal Singh? It turns out he's a donkey, washerman's donkey. So we believe so many things, but what's it based on? Most people don't think. I'm sorry to say. Most people don't. Wait a minute. It's called the either-or question. It's the only question that matters. It is the first question to answer. It is a purpose of human life. Atato Brahma Jigyasya. It is the spiritual question to ask. Either everything happened by chance, and it's simply random combination of elements. It's a river of names only. It's constantly mutable. Therefore, have a good ride. And then when bury me under a fruit tree, I'll become fertilizer. Either there is God or there isn't. Either everything happened by chance or there's a purpose. If everything happened by chance, then why waste my time? Just try to squeeze out as much happiness as you can. But if there's a cause, if there's a design, if there's a reason, if there's a purpose, whatever that purpose is, whatever that cause is, okay, that's another step. But that is the real meaning of life, to find out that cause. So there it is. Most people just don't think. So far, so good. Well, okay. That's what the man who fell off the roof said before he hit the ground. So far, so good. So what is that so good? Prabhupada said, I'm fine. You ask somebody, how are you? Fine. I was at the grocery store the other day in the express line. And they're trained, the cashier, when you put your card in, your name comes up and they say, oh, how are you, Mr. Narayan? And the social etiquette is you say, oh, fine. In this particular circumstance, this lady actually opened up. To tell you the truth, my son just died and I'm just getting a divorce. And everyone was like, wrap it up, honey. We're in the express lane here. She didn't get a whole lot of compassion, But really, what is this fine in this world? Birth, death, disease, old age? How can you possibly say you're fine? Prabhupada says when you're in the hospital, with a bedpan, with injections, bitter medicine, and if they move you to a room that has a window, you can see out, oh, I'm fine. I'm much better today. What is that fine? So, this is our real position in this world. Sanatana Goswami, he asked, who am I? Why am I suffering? When he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So you know that, so I'm not going to go into that. But he was a Pandit, he was West Bengal was actually East Bengal and West Bengal. Under the Nawab, in that time, why do you think the British put their capital in Calcutta? All the Ganga was there, it was an entry. But Bengal had a higher national output than the whole country of France. It was extremely wealthy. And Sanatana Goswami was the prime minister. Very aristocratic, Rupa Goswami. And this is history. It's only 500 years ago. You can go to their house, you can see their handwriting. It's not just, wishful thinking. It's historical record. He had 2 boatloads full of gold coins, which he's explained how he distributed. We're not going to get off on that. But just these caliber people, but I don't know who I am and I don't know why I'm suffering. That's smart. Sorry for the delay here. And how are you going to find it? Prabhupada says you can't take the kingdom of God by storm. We're finite. How are we going to understand the infinite? We'll get into that. It's descending. Anyway, we'll get there in a second. Krishna has to take the initiative. If I'm glued to a seat, if it's here in this slideshow, we'll skip it over. But if I'm glued to this seat and I want to shake hands with Jamal, is it possible or impossible? I can only reach this far. I'm finite in my reach. Can I shake hands with Jamal or not? You say no. Anyone say yes? Exactly. If he takes the initiative and comes to me, then it becomes very easy. So if we have to, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, we should not try to find Krishna, but we should act in a way that Krishna wants to come see us. Show me God. Well, who are you? How far can you see? So, this is the point. It has to descend. It has to come down to us. It's revelatory. The Guru Parm, like the fruit from the top of the tree, handed down. It's handed down, branched. You can shake the tree, they'll fall down, they'll smash. How will you reach them? But you have a chain, one hands to the other, another hands to the other. I've seen monkeys do this. I've seen farmers do it in Bengal, or in India. You hand it down, they climb the tree, one man hands to another, next man hands to another, another man, and it comes down, and you receive the exact same thing in perfect condition in your own hand. So we are in the Brahma Sampradaya, the first created living. Was it Teni Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye? That Krishna spoke to Brahma. Here it is. Actually, he plays his flute, Brahma hears it, he chants Gayatri Mantra, and from Gayatri Mantra, the syllables, Bija Mantra, everything flows. Oh, this is really a dead. So there's 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, Lakshmi. There's 4 lines coming from Krishna. You ask anybody, what line? What's your Sampradaya? Even there's some big Vedantas. Who are they initiated by? What's their line? I can have a whole string of extension cords. But if I'm not plugged in, it's not working. No, well, you got to plug it in. So what's your connection ultimately to Krishna? Do you have a bona fide Sampradaya? Otherwise, you cannot speak in bona fide spiritual circles. If you're not coming in a Sampradaya that you can trace all the way back to Krishna, then don't speak. Because whatever you're saying is speculation. That's a fact. Otherwise, how will we understand? Okay, so it begins like this. Lord Buddha, this world is full of suffering. Nirvana, His teaching is there's 4, this world is full of suffering. And suffering is due to desire. It's the 4 noble truths. I don't want to go through them, but it's 4 noble truths. And the conclusion is we're entangled in this world, we're suffering, and it's because of desire. So what's the answer? Stop desiring. Nirvana, finished with work. So cease to exist, the void. They do this classic example, which is completely bogus. Here's a circle, right? You see the circle of my cloth? There's an inside and there's an outside, isn't it? There's inside the circle, there's outside. There's duality. I remove this, what happens? Oh, it all becomes one. So similarly, their analogy is, it's all one, but right now, because of ego, this represents the ego, therefore it creates this duality, it creates suffering. You remove the ego, it all becomes one. What's the problem there? We don't have so much time to go into it. But if it's all one, what caused it to separate? Where did individual identity come from? What created all of us? Why did the one Brahman separate into many? They say, oh, it's his Leela. Prabhupada said, then if it's, anyway, I don't want to take too much time. Let's roll on. And so from Buddha, it's just stop, become one. And anyway, this is a long story, but we don't have so much time. After Buddha, if I take something too fast, it'll snap. If I bend it slowly, so this is how we're moving in increments from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. People are completely sinful, foolish, full bore into materialism. Buddha says, actually you're suffering. And they say, yes, I'm suffering. Well, you've got to stop your activity. You've got to stop your desire. Come to zero. Okay, that's as much as they could go at that point in time. Then following him, you have Sankaracharya, who says, no, there's actually an eternal spiritual reality. There is a transcendent reality. It's just formless. Merge into Brahman. Okay, what's the follow-on from that? Follow-on from that is Ramanujacharya. He comes in the Lakshmi. He says, pure devotional service, free from karma and jnana, and service of the devotees. He adds that next. The needle moves. Next you have Srimadva. Each one of these is a long story, but I'm going to go through this quickly. Srimadvacharya. Remember we said there's 4 Sampradayas. So he teaches the eternal individual even in liberation and service to the deity. Why is Madhvacharya? You see how he's sitting? Anyone know why he's sitting? A precursor to Winston Churchill? An early hippie? Why is he sitting? Yes, Janardhanji. There's even in liberation, yes, you're right, even in liberation, there remain 2, the individual jiva and the Supreme Lord. That matters because then there's a relationship. Then there's service. So there it is. And next you have Srila Vishnu Swami, the Rudra Sampradaya, exclusive dependence on Krishna and spontaneous devotional service. So each of them is adding something, and it's becoming fuller and fuller. Nimbarkacharya, the Kumara Sampradaya, taking shelter of Radharani and the gopis' love for Krishna. But the culmination, the amalgamation of all of these different lines, all the different, like rivers flow into the Ganga and the Ganga flows into the ocean. The conclusion of all these Vaishnava Sampradayas, the apex, the amalgamation, the Summum Bonum, the complete understanding is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's simultaneously one indifference, Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. So if we're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Brahma Sampradaya, we have all the understandings of the Vaishnavacharyas. From Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes the 6 Goswamis. From the 6 Goswamis, we could get into this, but we come in a noble line. We should remember when we open Prabhupada's books, when we read these prayers, when we take on these philosophical concepts, it's not just somebody thought, some guy in the Himalayas sat there long enough and came up with a bright idea. No. It's profoundly deep history and reality. And somehow or other, we're getting it. We should never take it lightly. And when we hand someone a book, or we sit on the Vyasasana and we speak according to what we've heard from Sheila Prabhupada, it has profound depth and efficacy or potency. And we come in this line of previous acharyas, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we have our line. It comes to Jagannath Das Babaji, Gorkashore Das Babaji, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I didn't do them in order, but we come in this line. So it's coming down. Picture that mango tree, the fruit at the top, handing down by branch by branch. This is how it's coming down to us from our previous acharyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur meeting Srila Prabhupada. I'm going through this quick. And Prabhupada's delivering the same, because remember our premise is what is the significance of Srila Prabhupada? Delivering the same timeless message perfectly according to the current audience. It's the same message. The medicine prescribed according to the patient, the time, the place, and the circumstance. So Prabhupada lived in New York City. There's a great letter Prabhupada writes back. He's from Butler, Pennsylvania. Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks, arrived in America. When he got to Butler, Pennsylvania, he spent about a month there. I think it's about a month. I don't know, more or less. And actually, Prabhupada was just getting his strength back, kind of getting his feet on the ground before he took on New York City. And Prabhupada was studying the American mentality. How there's many, many churches, but nobody goes. Prabhupada said, they have, the American people, they have a religious sentiment. They have some interest. But because they're not getting good answers, they're not going to the churches anymore, which means they have the propensity, the curiosity, the inquisitive nature. What's it all about? But they're not getting good answers. So he took that as a good sign, you know. So Prabhupada lived in New York City. He knew the mentality of Kali Yuga. Therefore, he could speak just expertly. Okay. Also, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that in the future, a great general of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement will come and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Prabhupada, you go to the West, you spread this. I think, let's see if it's here. Anyway, you know, they asked Prabhupada, why did you come to America? In his humility and in his sweet sense of humor, Prabhupada said, well, one of my godbrothers, some of them were sent to London and they failed. Someone went to Germany, he failed. Another one went to Scandinavia and failed. So Prabhupada said, I thought if I'm going to fail, let me at least fail in a new place. It's Prabhupada's sense of humor. But actually Prabhupada, and he said later on, you know, when Prabhupada was serious, he said the whole world was chasing America. And I thought, and in those days, anyone who was around in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, as soon as after World War II ended, America was the colossus. British Empire was finished. America really ruled. I mean, Russia was there, but really it didn't have much, you know, really. The whole world was chasing America. I remember going to India, 1973. I was in Vrindavan, I forget what it was, and I wanted to purchase a loda. And the shopwala had a plastic loda for 45 rupees. And a metal, nice stainless steel loda was 30 rupees. But I said, what's up here? I said, why would I pay more for an inferior product? You put hot milk in a plastic, it tastes like plastic. You know, why wouldn't I buy a nice stainless steel? And with such reverence in his voice, the shopwala said, but it's plastic like America. I told him, listen, buddy, I mean, coming from America, I got plenty of plastic. I'll take a nice stainless steel loader, you know. But because it was plastic like America. So Prabhupada knew this. And he thought, let me go to America, turn the fruit of the nation. Prabhupada said, the flower of your nation, the young people, let me turn them to Krishna Bhakti and then bring them back to India. And it's exactly what happened. People were shocked, couldn't believe it. So the whole world, because it was accepted by Americans. I'm not saying, oh, great America. I'm just saying culturally, socially, psychologically, Prabhupada was a great general. And he understood exactly how to turn the whole world. And he did it. So this is just a recap we've talked. We've got Ratha Yatras on every continent except Antarctica. But we have someone who's at the U.S. Naval Weather Station in Antarctica who ordered a set of books from the Bhagavatam, from the North American BBT. Yeah, he said 6 months out of the year or 3 months, 4 months, nobody can get in, nobody can get out. He said, I got plenty of time to read. He's got a set of products. So someone's there on Antarctica reading Prabhupada's books. No Ratha Yatra yet. We'll have to marshal the penguins and get it going, you know. I told this story yesterday, you know, oh, you create an apple, some yogi creates an apple. Oh, big deal. What about temples all over the world with so many apples, apple chutney, apple halava, apple, you know, apple fruit salad, you know, all over the world. Oh, that's not mystical? It's a long story, but Prabhupada was staying at the Radha Damodar temple. I don't have time to go into it, but Prabhupada actually got the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami appeared before Srila Prabhupada. There were witnesses who confirmed. It's such a sweet story, I'll actually tell it. I don't know what we're doing time-wise. Maybe we'll do this in 2 days. He's passed away now. Gopal Chand, yeah, that's his name, Goswami at the Radha Damodar temple. Anyway, he was a young boy, and Prabhupada caught him. He narrates this story, and he told it to Mullah Prakriti, and Prabhupada confirmed it. Hari Sari told me that he asked Prabhupada, people are saying you had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. You know what Prabhupada's answer was? Oh, that is common knowledge. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't deny it. So, and then later on, at the right time, Prabhupada's taking massage. Some weeks later, Prabhupada's talking about his early days in Vrindavan. Hari Sari thought, well, I'll try again. Prabhupada, did you get that darshan of Rupa Goswami? Prabhupada says, that you do not require. Didn't want to talk about it. Other people would advertise it, put it on their Facebook page, and Prabhupada didn't want to talk about it. But later on, both Hari Sari, anyway, several people talked to Gopal Chand, and he told the story. Prabhupada caught him stealing out of the hundi. If you go to the Radha Damodar temple, there's that Prabhupada's room, one room here, another room here, and there's that veranda. Prabhupada would sit there and chant japa, and for a beautiful darshan of deities, beautiful Radha Damodar. And Prabhupada's like Transcendental Sherlock Holmes. Prabhupada did not miss a trick, a thing, Many, many stories. We don't have time to go into it. But Prabhupada caught him as a young boy stealing out of the hundi. Prabhupada said, this is not good. This is, the reaction of this, who knows, that you born with no arms and legs playing a harmonica in Calcutta, It's not the way to go. So Prabhupada said, why do you do it? The boy said, I love sweets, and I take the money and I buy sweets. Just see Prabhupada, magnanimity of Vaishnava heart. Prabhupada said, if I make you sweets, will you stop stealing? The boy said, definitely. So Prabhupada used to make him nice para. Prabhupada used to make the boy sweets. He narrated the story. And naturally, Prabhupada said they're natural allies. Young boys and old men, they become natural allies, So they became friends. And he would bring his mother, a nice Vaishnav Mataji, old sadhu. So she would send her son, Swamiji, I'm cooking for my family. Do you want any sabji? You want any puri? Do you want any hot milk? They took care of Prabhupada. They would bring a little, and Prabhupada would something. He came one night, Gopal Chand tells the story, he came one night, wintertime, it gets cold in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada was all rugged up, as they say in Austria, chadar, cap, and he had a very bad cough. So they said, Prabhupada, the young boy said, do you want any hot man present? No. Prabhupada said, unwanted guest, how do you get rid of it? Don't feed it. So Prabhupada was fasting. No. That night, and if you've ever been to those old, like, Radha Vrindavan, Radha Raman temple, or Radha Damodar, Radha Shamasundar, those temples, they close up at night like you shut a drum. They shut those wood doors, and you put that big barb, behind the door. You don't get in, you don't get, and rightly so. You don't get out, you don't get out. They're like forts, you don't get in, you don't get out. Radha Damodar temple, closed up at night. Everyone's asleep. There's some Goswami families inside. Middle of the night, I don't know what time, they hear some noise. Someone's having a conversation. They got up, they looked out, Gopal Chand and his family looked out. The sound was coming, Prabhupada was talking with someone. And this beautiful, effulgent light was coming out under the door. Next morning, as soon as it was daylight, the young boy went to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting up, chanting japa. Cold gone, cough gone, Hare Krishna, deeply chant. They said, Swamiji, who are you talking to? And Prabhupada said, I had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Little boy, what did he say? What did he say? He said, just write these books, go to the West, and we will take care of everything. That's what Rupa Goswami said to Prabhupada. So, that's who Prabhupada is. That's the line we're coming in. Hold on a second. So anyway, you know the setup. And here's Rupa Goswami, darshan of... So Sheila Prabhupada came to the West all alone. I mean, just imagine. Wait till you're 70 plus and you go to a foreign country after 2 heart attacks with no money. In an unfriendly culture. Prabhupada sits on the grass. Hey, buddy, get off the grass. Laughing. Oh, so many different things. So I mentioned the Victoria Memorial story yesterday, Prabhupada climbed to the scaffolding as a young boy. Devotees on the morning. You can hear the morning walk. Devotees say, oh, Prabhupada, you were so brave. Prabhupada said, I'm still brave. Otherwise, how have you come to your country all alone? There's a tape, and Prabhupada speaking in San Francisco, 1967, something, hippie days, and some crazy woman, could have been a man, just happened to be a woman, some crazy young woman on LSD says, oh, I suppose you think you're God and you think you're that. She's shouting at Prabhupada, screaming and shouting at saintly, humble Srila Prabhupada. And you can hear Prabhupada say on the mic, it is the darkest of darkness. To come to such a place, chased out of where he was staying by the crazy LSD guy with a knife. I mean, we can't even imagine. There's a newspaper reporter. It's in Mexico City. She's a nice lady, reporter. And she's asking about Prabhupada. She's asking about his life and, when he came to America and how old were you and who was helping you. She got the story, the whole. She said, how you must have felt very alone. Prabhupada said, I was never alone. I always had Krishna and my spiritual master. So, but it was not easy. So, what time is it, man? Oh, maybe we're going to do this in 2 parts. I was Yeah, we'll do one more and then we'll stop. I think we'll stop at 8:30 because there's more and it's worth it. Prabhupada was at Henry Street, where Dravida Prabhu joined. Well, so many jewels came out of that Henry Street temple. So there was the building, and then there was a little garden in the back. And Prabhupada's darshan room was right against that, and it was, I don't know whether it was a half basement or, the window was up a little bit, the bedroom window. And Gopi Parandan, I think, was the president at the time. Gopi Janaballabha. You're right, Gopi Janaballabha. So the point is that he wanted to make sure that devotees didn't hang out in that garden, just talking chit-chat, this and that, disturbing Srila Prabhupada. So there was a who wants to volunteer to guard, and I was a young man in those days. I took a shift. My shift was from 2 till 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm there, making sure that no one's in the garden making any noise. About 2:15, the light goes on. And Prabhupada comes out. He'd been chanting japa. I don't even know when Prabhupada slept, but he was chanting japa in his bedroom. And then he came and sat in his darshan room. And when it's dark outside and someone turns a light inside, there was no screen. It was just an open window. You could see in very easily. And I saw Prabhupada sit down, put his japa bag down. He picked up the papers that Pradumna, I think both Pradumna and Nitai were there. I don't remember exactly, but the point is that they would do the initial Sanskrit. They would do the translation and the word for word, and they would look at the Devanagari, and then Prabhupada would check it to make sure it was accurate. But Prabhupada would focus on his, the translation and his Bhagavatam the purports. So they would do the, rudimentary, and then Prabhupada would check it, and then he would check the translation and do his commentary. So Prabhupada was looking at it. Then he turned on the dictaphone. He said a few things. Then he pulled down his Bhagavatam from behind him with his 5 different commentaries. Sridhar Swami, I forget who's there, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Sanatana Goswami, I'm not sure, but 5, and he read that, said a little bit, then he pulled down, the Sanskrit dictionary, pulled down his Bhagavad Gita, pulled down this Upanishad, and I was sitting there watching, and I was thinking, now remember my mission was to make sure that no one disturbed Prabhupada. So I was just quietly chanting japa initially. And I watched, and I was thinking that all the wisdom of the previous acharyas, it's all coming down into Prabhupada's consciousness. And then he's pouring it all onto the pages of his Bhagavatam. I'm getting the perfect understanding of Srila Swami, of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Sanatana Goswami, all these different acharyas. It's all there. You know, I don't have to go looking for this Upanishad or that Upanishad or Padma. It's all there. Like all the waters flow out of the Himalayas into the Ganga, and the Ganga into the ocean. So as I was watching this happening, I was chanting japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And in my own neophyte enthusiasm, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And then as I was thinking about it, it was Hare Krishna, Krishna. Prabhupada took his glass of water, threw it out the window, all over me. It was like, hey, I'm working here, you know? Like you throw a boot at a cat. So I was thinking, Abhishekam. I was doused with water. And then I thought, right, I was making too much noise, you know? So that's what when we crack open Srila Prabhupada's books, that's what we're getting, this whole line. All the way back to Vyasadeva, all the way back to Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, all the way back to Krishna. It is not a cheap or shallow, superficial, it's not I think, it's not whimsical, it's the truth. So we will end there and pick up tomorrow, because I think we can finish the rest in one more class. Is that all right? All glories to Srila Prabhupada.